I'll just mention the Second Congregational Church, home of the African Sunday School, the first Sunday school in Eastern Connecticut, started in 1815. The home of a formerly enslaved blacksmith, Guy Rock, freed by the efforts of his wife, who worked for the slaveholder Captain Bushnell for 2 years to basically purchase her husband's freedom with her own labor, plus paying Captain Bushnell a sum of money. New Englanders, I'm afraid, we have always been known for parsimony and so forth. So Captain Bushnell, yes, he freed Guy Rock, but he got a pretty good price for doing that. And then up on School Street, we actually have the former home of James L. Smith, fugitive slave from Eastville, Virginia, a shoemaker, a minister, an author. 69 square feet. And then we come back down through the downtown. There are a number of places, again, associated with African Americans. The city has a very rich history, and I think we've only begun to scratch the surface. We just discovered this by accident when we were doing an historic and architectural survey of the downtown in 1981, and then of Jail Hill a couple of years later, 1984, and we're amazed to find that there are all these sites connected to African Americans right here in Norwich. I think of real significance, not just to Norwich, but to the state of Connecticut, and even with James L. Smith and some of these others of significance to America as well. So the nice thing about the Ruggles Courtyard is we're honoring David Ruggles. We're not having anything in town named after him in case you want to remember him. And we're also, it's a good spot to start a little Freedom Trail walk of our own and see some of these sites. Now, yes.
Could you talk a little bit more about James Smith, especially his daughters? When I came in, you just started to tell me about them.
Right, exactly. Well, James Smith had been born in slavery. We're not exactly sure when, because those records don't exist. In the northern neck of Virginia, the peninsula on Chesapeake Bay. As a child, he had been crippled in an accident and was no longer fit to work out in the fields. So slaveholders basically apprenticed him to a shoemaker, taught him the trade of shoemaking, which didn't require him to be completely fit in terms of he could be crippled but still work as a shoemaker. He worked as a shoemaker for years, being leased out by the slaveholder to other parties. I think he was beaten by these folks. He didn't have the proceeds of his own work, and he decided to flee from slavery in 1838, just not coincidentally, as it looked like he was going to be sold off and shipped out God knows where. So he and 3 companions escaped by boat, walking, steamboat, ended up in Philadelphia. Ruggles went on to New York where he met, Smith went on to New York where he met David Ruggles, and Ruggles was the one who sent him to Springfield, Massachusetts. He received an education which he had not gotten in Virginia, in Massachusetts, came to Norwich in 1842, and within 3 years he had succeeded in buying a house on School Street in Norwich. A pretty remarkable achievement under the circumstances, and not an easy one at all. So he's living on School Street during the passage of the new Fugitive Slave Act in 1850, where the federal government decided to really step up efforts to return folks like himself. But he stayed in the community. He was, he was supported by local folks. The sheriff said that if someone came to him and ordered him to arrest Ruggles, he would resign his job rather than do that. Smith, sorry, James L. Smith. Ruggles helped Smith. So Smith, he marries a free woman from Massachusetts, Minerva Clot. They raise four children. The children, at least the daughters, attend Norwich Free Academy, graduate from Norwich Free Academy, and they end up going south to Washington, D.C. after the Civil War and becoming educators of former slaves in Washington, D.C. One of them is an organist. We don't unfortunately know very much about their lives. We do know that Smith actually returns to Heathsville. What's this? It's 27 years after he had fled slavery, and meets the wife of his former slave, the person who had held him in slavery, who is now in a very humble situation, and in fact makes her a pair of shoes for his next visit and drops those off. And he's really displaying far more charity and so forth than you would expect. The remarkable thing is the absence of rancor in what he did. And of course, in 1881, he writes a remarkable autobiography, one of the last of the narrative form that's called the slave narrative. Starting in the 1700s and up through the mid-1800s, you had these works of literature that written by either former slaves or taken down and for them from an oral method, talking about their experiences under slavery, escape, and so forth. So Smith's autobiography is really a remarkable work, well worth reading, and they're still available at the Leffingwell House Museum for $5. The biggest bargain you will ever get. So just to mention that. But he dies in 1884, and Smith, like Ruggles, has been pretty much forgotten in this community that he settled in and lived in. So he is another person that we need to truly honor here, he and his family, who struggled so hard. Now, the last thing we'll do is have the ringer for the bell.
Woo! Yay! Yes! Yes!
I would guess everyone
Yes.
here can ring the bell once.
Okay.
I think, let me see. I believe I pressed button 1. He has 3. Let me try it. Number 3. Haven't used it in a while. So, Booker, would you like to start?
I do.
Just press number 3.
Okay.
Hopefully that's the right one.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for the honor.
And if you could pass it, as long as I get it back. I think it's 4.